George. It's your boy DKB here. So, once again, trade rumors are heating up for Courtland Sutton to the New York Jets, right? I don't think this is out of nowhere. This isn't the first time, which is why I say once again, maybe about 2 to 3 weeks back, I started to see his name float around quite a bit as a possibility, right? And there wasn't really any direct correlation on why. It just kind of felt like another name added to the wish list, right? So I didn't really pay it too much mind. Granted, on paper, it seems like it would be a pretty strong fitting with what the New York Jets could use in that wide receiver room. But we're starting to hear names again come up. Connor Rogers kind of gave his thoughts on this, which kind of piqued my interest when he mentioned smart business for the Jets would be to see if one of their 2 fourth-round picks can bring Courtland Sutton. His contract lines up with Rogers' window, ideal skill set to complement Garrett Wilson, and gives you more flexibility going into the draft. And I think the best case scenario, we're not going to be able to fill every single hole by any means, right? But you can build a certain comfort level that if you had to walk onto the field, tomorrow, we're not going to be a complete detriment, right? Ideally, you'd like to be able to just toss a coin and say, hey, best player available at wide receiver or offensive line, whether that's, specifically more so tackle. I don't want to say if a guard or center is available, but essentially tackle or wide receiver. If you want to get super crazy, a long-term partner for Quinnen Williams could be on the table, right? If you want to talk about like a Byron Murphy that's out there, or just trading back and being able to open up things even further if the grades on a lot of these tackles are pretty similar once the top 2 or 3 guys come off the board. Going back into this Courtland Sutton situation, though, it is pretty interesting, right? There, setting aside his fit within this offense, when you take a look at things as a whole, the Broncos right now, they are, they're stuck in an avalanche, right? Things are sliding downhill extremely quick for them. You talk about the $85 million dead cap hit they just took by designating Russell Wilson to be released. You take a look at Courtland Sutton's own situation, right? He has scrubbed all of his social media from anything tied to the Broncos. From my understanding of the situation, he was pretty locked in with Russell Wilson, and so he expected that to be his guy, right? You take a look at his tenure and the quarterbacks that he's been thrown to. Not quite as bad as the New York Jets, but he's definitely had a revolving door of subpar quarterbacks as well. Not a guy that really wants to be age 28 plus, heading into the middle of a fresh rebuild. So I can't really knock him for that. With that said, physical receiver that will help complement Garrett Wilson, right? You take a look at what we wanted out of a guy like Mike Evans, and Courtland Sutton can fill that role. Probably not exactly to the T. They're not the same caliber of receivers, but the skill set and what he can do, especially what we've seen in 2023, does match up well. And this isn't really a foregone conclusion, right? This isn't just one of those hopeful dreams by a Jets fan to try to go and snag a guy for pennies on the dollar. You take a look at the Broncos cap situation. They're somewhere in the range of $20 million plus over the cap, and you can easily move on from Courtland Sutton's contract. And if I remember correctly, he has no guarantees on his 2024 salary of about $14 million. So from the Jets' perspective of acquiring Courtland Sutton, this would really be a similar move, I would say, to like Chuck Clark, right? Kind of being proactive for a need. Ultimately just a solid move, right? If we were going to go the route in free agency or otherwise of, figuring out who we want to target at wide receiver, I wanted a guy that could probably get a 3-year contract or so. Talking about somebody that's ideally 25 to 27 years old. That way you can lock them in along with Garrett Wilson for the next handful of years instead of again kind of having a revolving door of sorts for the Jets themselves. But Courtland Sutton's fit. You want to talk about the deep area of the field. This is something that we haven't been able to necessarily hit on successfully often at all. And it's not for a lack of trying, but we don't really have that caliber of player on the roster. This has been a area of opportunity I mentioned for Garrett Wilson quite a bit, in that he's not the guy that's going to come down with a lot of those 50-50 balls deep, right? And obviously there were some accuracy issues and stuff for the quarterback. Excuse me. But overall, it just doesn't seem to be a strong part of Garrett Wilson's game in the NFL, at least to this day. We'll see what happens with Aaron Rodgers under center in 2024. But Courtland Sutton, you take a look at his 2023 season, the 9th best contested catch receiver. You talk about a savvy big man route runner, right? That 6'4" build, elite catch radius. This guy can get anything from the tip of the blade of the grass to the top of the dome. It feels like when everything's working right for him. That's something I think that we can definitely utilize to our advantage. Taking a look at that relationship with him and Russell Wilson, 124.5 passer rating when Russell Wilson targeted him. His usage was pretty interesting because it's not like he broke the NFL landscape in terms of receiving yards or anything, but he did have 10 touchdowns on the year. Russell Wilson looked to him a lot in the red zone for sure, and definitely utilized him as a bit of a safety blanket, but he still took his shots with him, right? He averaged about 13.1 yards per catch for the year. So it's not like the guy, was just there to take dump offs and play scramble drills with Russell Wilson, who was actually able to go out there and have one of his most successful seasons since 2019 when he broke 1,000 yards. So, before, when we had these rumors brought up, the year prior and such, Jerry Jeudy as another, member of the Broncos over there, I wasn't a fan, right? But this was from the perspective of, I believe we didn't have a Garrett Wilson at the time anyways when the original rumors first came up, and this wasn't a guy that I wanted to look at as being our number one wide receiver. And I want to say we didn't have Garrett yet because this was when Courtland Sutton had his ACL tear, right? So people thought that maybe you can go out there and get him very, very cheap with the Broncos trying to move on, them just picking up Jerry Jeudy and, all these other things, factors that were going on with the Broncos. An interesting piece that I would let me know how you guys feel about this. A lot of people are probably going to call out the marriage between Courtland Sutton and Nathaniel Hackett, right? You talk about the small offset beef that they had, where Courtland Sutton has essentially tweeted something out like he, fed into the media narrative that Russell Wilson was a bad quarterback and that the problem wasn't Nathaniel Hackett, right? Would he be willing to join up with the New York Jets? Not really that he has a choice, but ultimately, will we be able to make it work knowing that him and Nathaniel Hackett are going to, not be necessarily on the same page? They don't have to be buddy-buddy, but I can't imagine you're going to be overly motivated to go to an offense that you don't love. The only thing I would say to that is that, if you're a Jets fan, we know how this is going to work out. This is Aaron Rodgers' team. This is Aaron Rodgers' offense in terms of the offensive coaching staff and then working around what Aaron Rodgers is going to want. So Nathaniel Hackett may be offensive coordinator in title, but that's really all it is, right? He's not carrying the duties and stuff. We're trying to hide him, if you guys recall anyways, in terms of taking away play calling duties from him, making that more of a collaborative approach, bringing in guys like Sean Jefferson that had that assistant head coach experience before. Excuse me. In order to make sure that we don't have to be overly reliant on Nathaniel Hackett. So let me know what you guys think. Denver Bronco, New York Jets trade. What would it take for Courtland Sutton? I know Connor Rogers mentioned a 4th-round pick. Who knows if the Denver Broncos would go that low? But I would say that would be a huge deal for the Jets, right? In a situation where you could flip a day 3 pick for a stud number 2 wide receiver, pushing guys like Allen Lazard down the board and stuff, which only helps increase the benefits we should see from seeing Allen Lazard go back to being a number 3, number 4 type wide receiver. Having guys like Xavier Gibson and Jason Brownlee that you don't have to necessarily rely on right out of the gate. If they make the jump, great. If not, then you can still give them an additional year, such, et cetera, et cetera. Let me know what you guys think. I'll catch you again. Peace.